What if I told you that the perfect shred pattern was hiding in plain sight right under your fingers this whole time? In fact, you were probably playing it as a beginner. Check out this week's VIP challenge. This solo is written around it. See if you can tell which pattern I'm talking about. Okay, so I used it profusely throughout the solo, so it would be pretty hard to miss. But I'm talking about the chromatic scale. A lot of us kind of start off going... and so on, right? As beginners, we often do this to sort of train our fingers to do the fairly unnatural task of putting our fingers down in a perfectly straight line. It takes some practice in the beginning, but after you get that down, most of us just stop doing this. I did. But the thing is, I started to notice, wait a minute, 4 fingers per string, 4 notes per string, that's 16th notes waiting to happen. So in this week's VIP challenge, I wrote a whole solo around using this as a speed run. And the way I used it, you'll notice, is mostly in full 1-octave chromatic scale runs. In fact, all 12 notes of the chromatic scale plus the next octave of the note you started on. So for the 3rd week in a row now, I am also having you do something in an obscure key. We're in A flat minor. You could think of it as G sharp minor, but I prefer to think of it as A flat minor because it's basically just A minor, but down a step. So it really does give you 7 flats, which when you're dealing with sheet music, it makes it more complicated, but think of this as A flat minor. But here's the thing. Don't tune your guitar down a half step in order to play it in A minor. For 2 reasons. One, you're going to really have a very hard time with the tab because it's written for E standard tuning. But second of all, it's also done this way on purpose because I want you to, once again, get used to how far apart the notes are. Pay attention to what the scale degrees of each note in the scale are. A flat is your root. That is note number 1. That means B flat is 2. C flat is 3. Yes, there's a C flat in this. D flat is 4, E flat is 5, F flat, yes, there's an F flat too, that's your 6, and G flat is your 7. I'm pretty sure I actually used A flat natural minor for all of this. I forget, but check out the tab. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and click the link above. If you're on Patreon already, it's in the attachments below. But the thing to really notice is I used the hell out of this pattern. Simply start from any note. You play for 3 strings, 4 notes per string. You do have to move over a little bit, so it's a little bit different from that. Because if you really look at what's going on here, if I come from my A flat with the pinky and I go here, I'm at a B flat. I've actually skipped a tone, so it's going to end up leading you to a different final note if you do it that way, straight across the same fret. So we need to do a position shift on almost every set of strings. So if I start on the A flat of the 13th fret 3rd string, which I do in this solo, then we slide. Okay, so same fret from 13 on the 3rd string to 13 on the 2nd string. Those are the only 2 strings where it's going to be the same fret though. Okay. The very first thing I do here, I do it from the B, which in this key is actually a C flat. Move down a fret. Now we're at the 2nd and 3rd string, so we can stay at the same fret. And then I actually slide up with my 1st finger to get to the next spot. So there's some tricky stuff that I threw into this, but you'll notice that I use this technique profusely throughout this entire solo, along with a couple other kind of fast things as well, but most of the fast stuff is this same kind of chromatic stuff. And I saved it till the end, but there's even a 2-octave run with this, starting from A flat here. Gotta jump up with the 1st finger, same fret there, down the fret, and then slide, all right? It works out really great because if you think about the fact that there are 12 notes in an octave, that's a multiple of 4. So every 13th note, when you start the 12 over, it's going to be the same note you started on, 1 octave higher. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1. Right? And the whole thing is in 3/4. We're at 162 BPM, which I realize is a little bit fast, but I wanted to showcase how this would sound in a normal real-life solo so that you can really see the incentive to really start practicing this pattern. So it's a great way to practice it. This is how I've been doing it probably for about 20 years now. That's when I first realized, hey, this is a 16th note pattern just waiting to happen. It also works really nicely as sextuplets and triplets as well, because as you might have noticed, 12 is also a multiple of 3 and of 6. So you can get some different accenting patterns out of the same run. But it's really great just practice your ascending and descending runs. I like to start from one note, descending. So this is a really cool pattern. And one other thing I did throw in, if you've been following these VIP challenges this year, I actually repurposed and borrowed the same pattern from VIP challenge number 6. So if you go back, I think it was April 5th, if I'm remembering correctly. I did it in a different key in that one, but I repurposed it and I just did it straight up. So you'll find that in there as well. That's kind of a fun little bonus. I realized, hey, that's also 12. So I'm using the Shred Mentor Power of 12 strategy here, which is to repurpose anything that happens to be 12 for whatever you need it for. So it works really nicely as a shred pattern as well. Not the focal point of this, but I did want to point it out because that's totally making a reappearance this week, because why not? But try this stuff out. I'd love to see how you do with this. So once again, film yourself doing this, put it on YouTube as an unlisted video, and post it in the Shred Mentor Discord. If you're not already a member over at the Shred Mentor Patreon, I don't know what you're waiting for. Becoming a great guitar player has never been easier or cheaper, but try it yourself for a month, see what you think. Go to patreon.com/shredmentor, sign up for the core VIP level, and you're going to also get 4 hours of live coaching every single month, plus recordings of it. And you also get access to all the old recordings from the previous calls as well. So you really can't lose here. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube, click above for the tab, or if you're here on Patreon already watching this, it's in the attachments below. I think you're really going to get a lot out of this, but it does take work. It's not going to be overnight shred, but this is just asking for 16th note shred. And by doing it in 3/4, it really kind of works out 1 octave per measure. So that's kind of why I chose 3/4 as the time signature for this week's VIP challenge. But anyway, rock on until next time, my friend.